I'm here today with a basic tutorial and some quick advice on how to get your musical performance live streamed online to social media. So hello and welcome to this quick tutorial. My name is Katsy and I'm part of Skinny Mammoth Media. We run here on the Isle of Wight, where as a company we do three main things. We do audio production, video production and live streaming, which coincidentally happen to be the three main things you need to get your musical performance live streamed online. Now, during this tutorial, we're going to be using a few bits of basic equipment to achieve the best audio quality that we can do. It goes without saying, obviously, that you could just grab your old smartphone and chuck it in the corner of the room, balanced on an old yogurt pot, and hope for the best audio-wise and visually, but it's never going to achieve the best results, really. And as musicians, we should be striving to achieve the greatest audio that we possibly can. Now, today, we're going to be using the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 Studio Pack, which happens to come with all the bits you need for your live stream. And now, if you haven't invested so far, this really is, and I can honestly say, a great starting point to get you going, as it comes with all the bits that we're going to need. It comes with some closed back headphones, which are all important during the live stream, and I'll talk a bit more on that a little bit later. It comes with the Scarlett 2i2 interface. It comes with this condenser microphone as well, which is fantastic. It comes with a few leads, all the bits you need basically. Then on top of that, you're going to need a computer, goes without saying. Either an internal or external webcam. Today I'm going to be using an external webcam, and that's pretty much it. So let's dive into what you've got to do for your audio setup. So of course there are lots of different ways that you could set up your audio, but today we're going to keep it nice and simple. We're assuming that you've already got your interface hooked up to your computer, but if you haven't and you're struggling with any element of that, then of course you can visit Focusrite.com, where they've got some really great video tutorials showing you how to get started and walking you through all the features. But very briefly touching on a few of the features, we're going to discuss monitoring first and foremost. As I mentioned at the beginning of the tutorial, we're going to be using closed back headphones, and this really is important to stop the amount of spill coming from your headphones into the microphone. If you were using open backs, it really would be detrimental to the audio signal. So be sure to use closed backs. If you don't have those, some old phone headphones will do the trick, or if you're a gigging musician, maybe you've got some in-ear monitors knocking around. If you want a little bit more of a minimalistic look, then go for those. Of course, on the Scarlett, you're going to have to press the direct monitor button in order to send audio into your cans. Be sure to do that, and then of course be sure to turn it up, and it should go without saying, but sometimes we all forget to do that. Second to that, if you've got studio monitors behind you like I have, then it's a great idea to turn those down as well. That's going to stop feedback and again any other sort of interference coming into your microphone. So be sure on your interface to turn the monitoring knob all the way down to 0, or alternatively you could switch off your speakers entirely. Now, onto the microphone. Today, we're going to be using the CM25, which is a condenser mic. You can use any condenser mic. You can use a dynamic mic if you want to. But if you are using a condenser, be sure to flick the 48-volt button and turn phantom power on, otherwise your microphone won't work. The other thing to think about is the potential to use the air button. If you've got a Scarlett, you can flick that switch and that's going to give you a little bit of top-end sparkle or sizzle should you feel like you need it. The other thing to really note is that microphone technique, as in any live performance, is all important, especially when you're using condensers. You don't want to be too close to the microphone, you don't want to be too far away from the microphone, so a good starting point is sort of a fist width away from the mic capsule to give you the sort of best balance in sound quality. And then the ideal thing to do is to double check it again on your monitors. And really you should be doing that all the way through your performance, just to make sure that nothing's gone awry. Now, the only other thing to note is that today I'm going to use a very small effects pedal just to give myself a little bit of reverb and compression. I'm going to be using that inline, I'm going to plug into it and then straight out of that into my interface. Now, it's not an essential step, but just in case you're wondering where all the reverb came from, that's where it's coming from. Of course, there are ways to do this in your DAW, but it all becomes a little bit more complicated and advanced. So for today, we're just going to keep it simple. Hopefully you've taken into account some of those audio tips to get the best out of your audio for your live stream. Now we're going to move on to the video section of things. Now, our video setup is extremely simple, as we're just going to use one webcam, and that's perfectly fine. Of course, there are ways to add additional webcams, but that requires a third-party bit of software. There are also ways that allow you to use your DSLR as your camera source, but that, again, would require a third-party bit of equipment. And so today, we're just sticking with one webcam. In this case, it's an external webcam, mainly because it gives me the ability to frame my shot the best I can do in this room. As it's quite small, it's the only way that I can get a decent backdrop. So external webcam may be the way to go for you. Another thing to consider, of course, is the backdrop. Keep it as clutter-free as possible, something not too distracting. Thinking about the backdrop further, it's great to stay away from windows. Now, I know in this particular shot that you're looking at, I have windows directly behind me, but as I'm using a DSLR, it's possible for me to expose for my skin and face. Whereas if you're using a webcam, you're not going to be able to do that very well, so steer clear of bright light sources directly behind your performance area. Now, additional lighting is something that you could also consider. Today, I'm using a studio light setup just behind these two cameras, and it gives me the ability to balance out my backdrop and the foreground. By adding a little bit of light, it means that you can still see me. Whereas if you're using a webcam, as we talked about, with a light source behind you, it's not going to work very well. So add some additional light to it, maybe it'll improve things for you. That can be in the shape of anything. It doesn't have to be a studio light like I'm using, a bedside lamp, a couple of torches all strapped together. Use whatever you can in order to up the light levels in total, and it will probably improve things for you. Now, other than those few things, there really isn't that much more to consider when you're using webcams. So we've got our audio set up, we've got our video set up as best we can do. So now it's really time to head over to the computer and jump onto YouTube. Now, we're going to be streaming directly to YouTube because, again, it's the simplest thing for us to do and get you online quickly. Your YouTube link, you can then share that onto any of the other social media platforms that you choose to, and that's one quick way of getting yourself out there. Again, there are ways to multi-stream, to go to simultaneous platforms, and we'll cover that in a further tutorial. But for the moment, let's jump to the computer and get things set up. So here we are, we're all set up for our audio, we've got our video set up, and now it's time to tackle the live streaming element. First and foremost, this is going to be an example on YouTube, but it's perfectly applicable to the majority of social media platforms, as in most cases it's just actually selecting each source as you go along. So for us, it will be our webcam as our video source and our Scarlett as our audio source. Jumping into YouTube, first things first, you're going to need to navigate over to your icon here in the top right hand corner and click that. You're going to click YouTube Studio there, and it's going to bring up your channel dashboard. Now, there is a pesky little button on the YouTube site which looks a little bit like the Batman symbol. This is the Go Live symbol that you're going to want to click to get up your live studio. So here we are. Once you've clicked that button, hopefully this screen's going to pop up for you. If it doesn't, you're going to need to select webcam in the left-hand side of the screen on this menu here. So click that, and then it's going to give you some options, which are all pretty self-explanatory. The title, obviously, this is your privacy settings for your stream. Public, I suppose, is probably the most common one to set it to. If you wanted to just send a private link to all your subscribers, for example, then you could do that by selecting unlisted and only people with the link can view it. Or if you are thinking of having a private party, just all to yourself, then you can click private. And I'm going to click private as this is just a tutorial. Then this section, of course, I'm going to leave that entirely up to you. But the most important thing here are the more options. So we're going to click that, and it's going to bring up our sources. Now, the sources, we know we've plugged in a webcam. So for the video section, you're going to click webcam. It's as simple as that. If you're using your iPhone through some third-party software, of course, it's possible to do that. Click that. If you're using your DSLR, and so on. And it's as simple as doing exactly the same thing for the audio. You're going to click on whatever your actual interface is, in our case the Scarlett 2 i2. Now you're going to click next. You're going to pose for an awesome thumbnail. You've set up your live stream, you've selected all your sources, your audio's good, your video's good, and you're ready to go live. So now I'm going to get myself set up, and it's just a case of me clicking this Go Live button down here. And just before I do, it's good to note the share button here as well, which will give you access to the URL you'll need to share with your friends. And it's as simple as that. So that's it, we're all set up and we're ready to go. So I'm just about to click go live, which I have done. It's creating my preview, and in a few seconds we will be live to the world. And we're live, that's what it says. So here we go. I'm taking stock of what I got. Though it's not a lot, it's all I need. So thanks very much for joining me today. It's been a basic tutorial, but hopefully it's given you a bit of clarification into live streaming and getting your audio sounding great. Now, if you're after more advanced techniques, then my colleague Dave is shortly going to be releasing a video where he discusses multiple audio inputs, multiple camera inputs, using your DSLR as a video source for your live stream, OBS, lots of stuff he's going to talk about, so keep an eye out for that. For the moment, thanks very much for joining me again. My name is Katsy, and I hope to see you again soon.